You are listening to TBR Radio Presents The DIXIE Heritage Show, with your host, the Director of DIXIE Heritage, Dr. Ed DeVries.
So you got any? If you were listening to our other show, TBR Radio Presents the TBR History Hour, of course you heard our hour-long discussion with Clint Lacy discussing his new best-selling book, The Rape of Delaware County. After we finished that conversation, Clint and I were talking about some other things, mainly the coronavirus and all of the things that are happening in response to that, particularly how life is changing in the state of Missouri and throughout the Southland. And so that's going to be our conversation today on TBR Radio Presents the DIXIE Heritage Show. Any other books you're working on right now or any other projects?
I do. I always seem to have something going on. I'm working on a book. If you look through old newspaper archives, whenever you doing research, especially about the Civil War, the latest headlines, it always said latest by telegraph. That's how they distributed their news. So I'm writing a book, Civil War in Missouri, as told through the press.
Okay.
So I thought maybe that would be a unique way to tell the war. And it's kind of hard to argue facts, when they came straight from the papers. It'd be kind of hard for somebody to say you're biased.
So will it be the war as a whole, or just the war there in Missouri or in the Ozarks, or?
Just Missouri. The war as a whole. Wow,
that would be.
That's a good idea, but you're talking years and years of research. And I'm not saying I won't do it someday, but for now it's just going to be about Missouri. But yeah, I thought maybe that was a unique way to tell a perspective of what people lived through, because that's how they got news of the war, was through the papers. The papers got it through telegraphs.
Right now, I'm in Maryland, and Maryland is under a virtual lockdown. What about Missouri? Is life fairly normal right now? You said you were able to drive over to the county square there and tap into some Wi-Fi. So
I've been in the parking lot for the museum. The stores are still open. Got to stand 6 feet away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are limiting how many people can be in at one time. The governor has closed the schools for the rest of the year.
Wow, okay.
They're still pretty much asking everybody to stay at home. I've been at home for a different reason. I blew my knee out again, been going through therapy. I guess I was ahead of the curve on that one. But basically, it's just supposed to be essential employees.
So given the fact that there's a shortage on toilet paper and paper towels right now, you would not have been an essential employee?
I would have been an essential employee, yes. I think they're very essential right now. Matter of fact, by the time I do go back to work, they'll still probably be trying to stockpile, make up for the reduction in stock, trying to restock everybody. The stores around here are pretty well stocked. There's not the selection of toilet paper there used to be. But unlike the beginning of this thing where everything was wiped out, it might not be the brand you're looking for, but there's some there. The food is still well stocked around here. There's no problem getting things like hamburger or vegetables or any of that. So that's going well.
Well, you're pretty close to Iowa, though, so,
Oh, well. Yeah, and then there's no shortage of cattle in this area either. But yeah, things are pretty normal. There's a gas station just outside of town that's selling gas for $1.29 a gallon.
Wow.
That's two for $6.99. So I filled my tank up, got a Trump hat the other day. Things are pretty good here.
The area you're in is still fairly rural. There's a lot of farming that goes on there.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, there's only about between 8,000 and 9,000 people in this whole county. Marble Hill is the county seat. It's the biggest community in the county, and it's 1,500 people.
Wow.
So
are you seeing the farmers out and starting to do their thing now, or is that still not happening there?
No, they're doing their thing.
Okay.
I mean, they pretty much have to.
Right. Because last week
and
that was one of my concerns in my DIXIE Heritage newsletter was that we're not seeing the farmers out. They should start doing their stuff now, and we're not out there seeing them. And obviously, my concern is if the farmers don't start doing their thing, then we're going to have a food shortage come fall. But
it appears to be business as usual here.
Okay, well that's good.
Of course, the weather plays on what they're going to do and when. So, but I have seen like people hauling lime to their pastures and things of that nature. I think farming is going to go business as usual around here.
Okay.
Just little things like you don't pay your water bill at City Hall through the lobby now. You go through the drive-through.
Right.
There is no sit-down eating anywhere. You go through the drive-through if you're brave enough. And I see a lot more people wearing masks in the store and things of that nature. But as far as the availability of food and gas, supplies, we're good. But I had 18 miles south of me, and I went down there when this first started because I had a feeling it was going to get this way. And I visited with them and said, hey, I probably won't be back for a while because my parents are in their 70s. I haven't seen them for a month, but we talk a lot, either on Messenger or telephone. It's just normal at a distance, I guess.
We have a deacon in our church right now. He's saying that the CEO of his company just lost his dad in Florida. His dad just died. And they apparently, they pretty much closed the borders there in Florida. And so they're not letting him, he can't go down there even to bury his dad.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really sad. I have an uncle in Alabama that's in a nursing home now. Mm-hmm. My cousin sent a picture of her and her kids, and my aunt visited him. They had to talk through the door because they couldn't get in to visit him. It's sad. I mean, it's really. Yeah. And we lost Joe Diffie and John Prine to this deal. At first, when this started, I thought, oh, it's just a bunch of fear-mongering. Mm-hmm. And I've come to the conclusion it's real. And I do think it's a bioweapon. But, I believe it was Boston College, that professor that got arrested there, whose name was Charles Lieber. The Chinese were paying him, and he went to Wuhan, where this thing originated, to help him set up a lab. And two of the Chinese he was working with in the States, they were Chinese nationals. One of them was a lieutenant in the People's Liberation Army. I kind of jokingly said he sold it to them, and they gave it back to us for free. Wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
And there's some talk going around in Congress that, you know what, we're not going to pay you the debt we owe you, China, because you caused us all this, and I'm all for that. My view on the whole debt with China is, how much did you sell in this country? How much did you make in this country off the things we let you sell here? Let's just call it even. Say, see you later, because obviously we're not friends.
Open your web browser and type in www.barnesreview.org and discover the Barnes Review magazine. In the Barnes Review, you will read vignettes of man, from the prehistoric to the very recent, from forgotten races and civilizations to first-person accounts of World War II and the late Cold War. There is no more interesting magazine published today, nor a more significant and important subject than real history. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review. You can subscribe to receive the Barnes Review magazine in its print form, or in convenient electronic delivery. Our host has been a subscriber to both formats for years. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review.
And another thing that's suspicious to me is Trump had really hurt China by renegotiating these trade deals. Their economy was hurting, ours was taking off, and suddenly a disease from China hits us, closes everything down, and suddenly we're the ones hurting. It's real. The virus is real, but I think it's a bioweapon. Just me personally.
I've wondered that myself.
Maybe that's just my conspiratorial mind at work, but all the signs seem to point to the fact that they had a lot more to gain from this.
But at the end of the day, I am still more afraid of our own government's reaction to this than I am the virus itself.
one alarm is that it wasn't nearly as bad as they said it was going to be. Now the argument could be made is it not as bad because they took the measures, or was it not as bad because they hyped it up to be worse than it is? I don't know. I really don't.
Right.
If people want to congregate together in groups, they're going to do it. You always have the choice not to congregate in that group if you don't want to.
Well, a little bit north of you, there's this place called South Dakota. And the governor of South Dakota, I know, has not been issuing a lot of the emergency orders that the other governors have been issuing. And her reasoning for that is she said that, the Constitution is still in place and it prohibits her from doing those things. And, the point is one that should be well taken. The Constitution was actually adopted during a time of national crisis. And it's not like there's an 11th Amendment in the Constitution that says, by the way, if there's a pandemic, just ignore everything you've read so far.
Yeah, I've opted to pretty much stay at home
Mm-hmm.
to get groceries. I can tell you this, several churches around here had
Mm-hmm.
Easter services.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see anybody trying to prevent them. My suspicion and my fear is a lot of emergency government acts that are supposed to be temporary end up being
Permanent. Mm-hmm.
to the Patriot Act, which happened after 9/11 and has not gone away yet. It's a problem of not being able to turn loose of extra power that they say they need for emergencies.
The times are definitely going to get more and more interesting, that's for sure. I just hope that, my fear is that even when things start to quote-unquote go back to normal, for example, in the grocery stores, they're starting to paint arrows and X's to govern traffic through the grocery store. So when this goes away, are they going to rip those off of the floor, or are we going to have to, walk through, the grocery stores like we're shopping in the old Soviet Union still, after the fact?
That's a good question. I have no idea. They didn't take the trouble to paint around here. They just put duct tape and matching markers. So it could be easily taken up.
Okay. See, I told my wife we were actually waiting for almost an hour to get into Sam's Club.
Oh, wow.
On Saturday. And I told my wife, and then after that we went to Aldi, which is a grocery store. And we probably stood outside there for about half an hour waiting to get in. And I told my wife, I said that if I wanted to stand in line for the privilege of walking through a store with bare shelves, I'd have moved to Venezuela years ago.
No doubt. I haven't had to wait in line yet. We go to Aldi occasionally. We have one about 30 miles from here.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we got our local grocery store. I haven't had to stand in, wait outside yet for that. Of course, you're in a much more populated area. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But I do know that Target and Walmart, and I believe Aldi too, in this area, there can only be so many people in the store at a time, and now it's one person, one cart. So if you're a couple, somebody's going to have to wait in the car or put another quarter in the thing and grab a cart and pretend you're shopping, I guess. I don't know, but these are strange times we're living in, indeed. Did you ever think we would live through something like this?
Well, as far as the end of Christianity, if you will, the end of the world, whatever you want to call it, I always thought Christianity was going to go down in a fight. And instead, what I'm seeing is millions of churches around the world just closing their doors and not even putting up a fight to stay open. Yeah. This is a scenario that I totally did not envision in any possible. I mean, I always thought that it would be a battle, that it would be bloody, that that persecution would be, like I said, that there would be a fight involved in it, and there's no fight in this. People are just rolling over. And the sad reality is I've kept our church open, and I've not had to fight the civil authority to do it. I've had to fight my own leadership.
I got you. Yeah.
The civil authority, I was waving at the cop Easter morning when I was getting out of the truck in the parking lot and, unlocking the building. He was driving by. I waved at him. He didn't have a problem with it.
Well, I can tell you this. As far as the quote-unquote Southern movement, goes, it seems to be going with a whimper as well. 20 years ago, there were still people that would go out in the streets, make a strong stand, publicly show that they were willing to defend these things.
Extra, read all about it.
If you're like me, and I'll bet you are, you like to be on the cutting edge of honest news and accurate information. 26 times a year, the American Free Press newspaper can be delivered to your door, packed with the kind of uncensored news that I know you're going to appreciate. If you're ever dissatisfied with your subscription to the American Free Press, their guarantee is that you just drop them an email and they will gladly refund the unused portion of your subscription. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.americanfreepress.net. Once again, www.americanfreepress.net. And find out about the American Free Press. Do it today.
Extra, read all about it.
You know, of course, a lot of attacks on our heritage has been in the middle of the night now too. They just go in the middle of the night and take it down, you know, like a thief in the night. There doesn't seem to be a stronger backbone in our movement as there used to be. I don't know. I guess some of that could be contributed to tech companies clamping down on things as well. It's harder to get the word out now. I don't know. It seems similar in that sense because look at Virginia where the state passed a law protecting the monuments there. Well, then the cities try to make it where the municipality can decide, and in comes Governor Northam and the Democrats, and now they're talking about taking the monuments down on Monument Avenue or placing interpretive plaques. My gosh, that man has to be the most evil politician I think I've ever seen. Is it people immigrating from Washington, D.C.? Is it people immigrating from other northern cities? Is that what's going on, or this all seems so sudden?
I know that in the case of Virginia, you know, it was how in the world, Virginia had managed to stay as Republican as it had for the last few years is anybody's guess. I'm just going to guess that it was just a matter of time, you know, before there were enough federal workers, you know, around the D.C. area that were in the voting pool. Virginia has basically flipped Democrat, you know, all the way across the board. Both houses of the legislature, the governor's office. You know, it's like there's just it's like they're coming in on this stuff with a vengeance.
Yeah, something else I've noticed about the Democrats. They were angry when Trump shut down the country because they said there was no cause for it. Now they're angry he does shut down the country.
Yeah.
Now they're the ones screaming states' rights.
Well, Governor Cuomo put it out today because Trump is trying to reopen New York and some other places because, you know, they're central to the economy. And he's like, you know, we've got to get back into business or if we don't do it now, there'll be no business to get back to. And Governor Cuomo basically told him today that if you want a constitutional crisis, just reopen up New York.
Well, that's not the only thing he said either. You know, he was talking about the virus declining. He said, God didn't do this. We did this. We're the ones that brought it down. It wasn't God. It wasn't faith. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. We did it. It's just confirmation of what we've always suspected. They're godless people.
Right.
And you can look through their actions and tell that they're godless people. That's not the only thing disturbing about Cuomo. Did you see the pictures going around where he was wearing the tight polo shirt?
No.
It appears he has a couple of piercings.
Okay. Nipple piercings?
Doesn't exactly scream dignity of the governor's office, does it? You know, the Democrats are all of a sudden screaming states' rights, and we know they're not about states' rights because we look at their actions. You know, I do understand trying to keep this virus from spreading. If there is an event, you don't think people should be going to it. There's a simple solution: just stay at home.
Right.
You don't have to go to the event. You can stay at home. I never really thought I would see these days like we're living through today. My brother and I were talking earlier today about all of the things our grandparents saw, from steamboats on the Tennessee River to a man on the moon. And he said they sure saw a lot. And I said, well, you know, we've seen a lot too. If you count everything we've witnessed, we've seen a lot of things too in our lifetime, and this is just one of them. I admit it does have an eerie feel to it. Of course, you never know what their true motives are.
Well, I guess that's part of the problem that I'm having is it's not that I'm in denial, but at the same time, I don't know what to believe. Because if you look at our source of information, I mean, there's a reason the president's been calling it fake news for all these years. And now we're just supposed to believe everything that they're telling us about this virus?
Well, Dr. Fauci, whatever his name is, I believe he had ties to Clinton's and Obama, didn't he? So naturally, you're going to wonder, I mean, is he at the point now where he's truly doing this, thinks it's best, or is he at the point to stand at the podium, he's the decider? You always run that risk of people and egos, and so you never truly know what's going on. I mean, really, the only thing you can do is deal with it the way you think you should personally deal with it. What else can we do?
Look out the window and see that the world is still there. And
Hello, I'm Tom Strain, Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The Confederate flag, Confederate symbols, and the reputation of our Confederate ancestors has come under attack. The Sons of Confederate Veterans is actively fending off our detractors, but there is only so much that we can do. We need your help. Contact your local, state, and national elected politicians and tell them that you will not tolerate these attacks on our heritage. You can also visit scv.org, download an application to join us in our fight to preserve our Southern heritage. Visit scv.org today. If you don't have a Confederate ancestor and you are tired of American history disappearing, you can assist us by becoming a friend of the SCV. Please visit scvheritagedefense.org and make a donation to the Heritage Defense Fund. We hope that you will join us in the fight to defend the Confederate soldiers' good name.
we've been going for 20 minutes now, and we've not even brought up the subject of your new book, The Rape of Delaware County. Of course, we talked about it at length on my other show, TBR Radio Presents the TBR History Hour, and encourage all of our listeners to go over to that show if you don't know how to get over there to it, if worst case scenario. On the internet, go to www.barnesreview.org, click the radio tab, and that'll take you to the radio archives, and just look up the April 17th TBR Radio Presents the TBR History Hour show, and of course you'll get the full hour of Clint and I talking about his new book, The Rape of Delaware County. But Clint, just go ahead and briefly tell our listeners, at the very least, how they can get a copy of your new bestseller.
You can get the book at foothillsmedia.net.
Foothillsmedia.net. And so just go ahead and we got a couple minutes here, just talk very briefly about the book.
Yeah, this whole book was an interesting thing, man. And like I said, it was interesting, but I don't want to ever have to deal with him again. Right. I'm starting to wonder about the whole state of Oklahoma after seeing that Tiger King documentary and dealing with all this. I'm in the truth business, not the propaganda business.
Breaker one might be crazy, but I ain't dumb. Crazy cooter coming at you. Hey, y'all, got your ears on? Well, I got some news for you. We're here at our brand new Cooters in the Country store in Sperryville, Virginia. Good old Sperryville, where Cooters started many years ago. Folks are coming from all over Hazard County, and we're going to have a grand old time with good music, good food, and best of all, good friends. Hope y'all can be there. Whoop, whoop, here come Enos. Huck got Cletus with her. I'm down and I'm gone.
I'm sorry about that. I was a little distracted during the commercial break there. I was looking out the window and I'm seeing our neighbors who are a commercial nursery. He's got about 50 employees that, are wandering around the property. And
are they 6 feet apart?
I don't know. But,
He comes over again and say, "Excuse me, sir. You're too close."
Yeah. I don't know if and they come and go. Part of the reason we picked this property, because we don't have neighbors really.
Right.
Because we're surrounded on three sides by a commercial nursery that goes for miles in any direction. And the few houses that are out here are on the nursery property, and they're people who, owners of the nursery or people who manage parts of the nursery or whatever. But like right now, they've got people coming and going like crazy, because one of their nursery offices just happens to be right behind my little barn where they all kind of come and go from as they go to other parts of the property.
What do you think about the Q movement?
Really thought about it. I'm going to say I guess that the James Bond movies just haven't been the same since the Q character died. Of course, I also didn't like it when they made M a woman, so, what do I know?
Yeah, you've heard of the Q movement, haven't you?
I guess not.
Oh, wow. You're missing out on one of the greatest conspiracies of all time.
Okay.
I guess it's been going on since the election. Somebody, supposedly, they believe within the Trump administration, sends out coded messages, and you have people called Anons.
So there's somebody in the Trump administration, and they send out coded orders.
Basically, or clues. That is the theory now. And the theory is that he's going to arrest all these mass pedophiles and everybody. And Trump has arrested a lot of pedophiles. But they're not the people you would expect. I haven't seen the big Hollywood stars and stuff being arrested like that. But supposedly Tom Hanks
well, they're
going to
arrest the people who aren't the real whatevers just so that it looks like they're doing something, and that's how they'll protect the real culprits.
One channel on YouTube is called True Reporting. This guy gives out Q. John B. Wells of Caravan to Midnight seems to be a Q supporter. There's lots of Q activity on Twitter. And I want it to be true. I want it all to be true, but I just never see it happening. But there are people that just swear it's real and that you got to trust the plan. And I just don't see it coming to fruition.
Well, it's the only way that they can keep themselves from having to admit that Trump didn't turn out to be what we thought he was going to be. Because Trump was supposed to, upset the apple cart, and instead, to some degree, it's just been business as usual.
I think he's upset it as much as he can, but he thought the swamp's a lot bigger than he thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. There is no end to the swamp.
Well, that's my point is, he was supposed to drain the swamp, and, these people have to come up with some way to justify that the swamp is still there. And so, he's going to drain it in his second term, or, he's got this big deal working right now, or whatever. Even if either of those were true, I think that this pandemic changed all the rules. And he's just as much of a puppet now as all the rest of them are. He's just going to be glad to be alive in his second term. He's not gonna all of a sudden become the disruptor.
The only person that's tried to do this before was Reagan. Well, actually, go back to Kennedy. There was a lot of things I didn't like about Kennedy, but Kennedy was going to shatter the CIA into a million pieces. He was going to stop the Vietnam thing before it started. They killed him. Reagan was going to drain the swamp. Bush shot him. Everybody knows it was Bush.
Yeah. Oh, you mean it was just I thought it was just a coincidence that the Bushes were having dinner with Hinckley's parents or whatever. Yeah. I thought that was just a coincidence.
I do think Trump's a good man, and he's tried, but the swamp is just so freaking deep. And every time you get rid of an Obama person or a Clinton person, you think that's it. They packed it so tight that they'll be running this for 12 more years. One good thing Trump has done is expose the media for what they are. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the fact Kushner and Ivanka are in there calling shots. They don't need to be there. But you'll either thank me or curse my name for even bringing Q up to you now.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this week's issue of TBR Radio Presents the Dixie Heritage Show. I hope that the conversation with Clint was enjoyable banter for you to listen to during your Friday today. Thank God it's Friday, right? The week's over. Not that you were going anywhere for the weekend anyways. Why? Because you're probably under a stay-at-home order. But anyways, fear not. We will be back again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, go to my website, www.dixieheritage.net, www.dixieheritage.net. And from that website, you can read back issues of my weekly newsletter, the Dixie Heritage Letter. If you're not already a subscriber, sign up. It's absolutely free, no cost, no obligation. And when you sign up for the newsletter, I will also send you a free copy of my book, The Truth About the Confederate Battle Flag. So from all of us here at TBR Radio Presents, Hope that you had a great Easter weekend last weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, God bless.